Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. Happy Tuesday, November the 5th. We are welcoming a wonderful celebration in tonight. We're so excited about all the wonderful things happening. But before we do that, I have a fantastic guest, a returning guest for you that maybe you haven't heard before. If not, her YouTube recording is on my channel from earlier this year. But Dr. Jennifer Smith is joining us this evening, and we have a fantastic topic that we're going to be discussing with you. And I'm sure it's probably going to relate to most of you in some way or another. We're going to be talking about strengthening your immune system during cold and flu season. We're going to talk about how sugar and alcohol, stress, limited sunshine, and poor sleep impact your immunity during these colder months. But I'm going to be honest with you. I live in Florida, so that doesn't happen down here in Florida. And no, please don't all move here. You've already been moving here for years. But no, I'm joking. It doesn't happen like that down here. It honestly doesn't. We're still 88 degrees and sunny here. Like, it is gorgeous weather. Our humidity has just went away. We've got 6 months of sunshine and usually in the upper 70s, lower 80s, but we're still at a rockin' 88 today. So here in Florida, it's a little bit different, but I can relate, you guys. I lived in Indiana for 40 years. So I can totally relate to the cold, dreary, gray, rainy, snowy, yucky 6 months that you all have to look forward to up north if you're not in the state of Florida. So before we get started with this exciting topic, I'm really excited to have Dr. Jennifer here again. I want to share a quick little disclaimer, and then I want to share her bio, of course. So I am not a medical doctor. Dr. Jennifer is not a medical doctor. She has a naturopathic doctorate degree. I'll talk about that in a second. I have a PhD in integrative and functional medicine. So if you have questions in regards to your health, please check with your medical doctor or your healthcare practitioner. If you're pregnant or nursing, on medications, the information we're sharing tonight is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose anything going on with you. Okay, so please keep that in mind. With that said, I'd get out a notebook. I'd take some notes because this information is pretty darn important and powerful. So let me tell you just a little bit about Dr. Jennifer Smith. I had interviewed her before, like I said. She did a fantastic discussion on different types of, let's just say, conditions that a lot of people deal with in today's world, unfortunately, a lot more so even in the last 4 years when you think about your immune system. So if you really want to deep dive into that, definitely go back and check out that recording. But Dr. Jennifer is a traditional naturopath and consultant with an expertise in resolving autoimmune conditions. This is her practice. So keep that in mind when you're going back to look for that recording. She's worked in the holistic health field for over 20 years with training in nutrition, herbalism, homeopathy, detoxification, aromatherapy, and phototherapy. So Dr. Jennifer, thank you for being here this evening. And I'm so excited for you to share because we have so many new people. Take us to the beginning of your education first. Like, how did you get involved in naturopathic medicine or why? And then, of course, bring us up to speed to when you met Kathy that introduced you to the patches.
Gosh, okay. Well, thank you so much for having me back. I guess my education, what got me into led me to naturopathic school is really my childhood. My mother used to take us every so often to a teeny tiny little health food store. I grew up in northwestern Ohio, right on the Indiana border, so probably not too far from where you grew up. And to this day, I don't even know what that little health food store was that we went to, but I was fascinated. And at the same time, I had a lot of family members that were on a lot of pharmaceutical drugs and they were very sick. And it was just kind of, it seemed like a way of life. Everybody talked about, oh, she's got this, or she's got sugar, is what they would always say. She's got sugar. She's, had a heart attack. He's got this or that, cancer. And I just kind of observed from afar, and it just didn't seem right to me that everybody would get so sick and then go to the doctor doctor and get sicker and sicker and sicker. That just didn't seem right to me. So I think the combination of that, watching family members combined with the fascination of the health food store that my mother took me to. And, back in those days, things were quite different, but she did her best to provide healthy meals for us. We grew a garden and we did what we could with the resources we had. And not only that, but things just weren't as toxic and poisonous as they are today. So it was just a whole different ball game. But anyway, that's kind of what led me to where I eventually ended up. And, gosh, when Kathy Snyder introduced me to the patches. This was over 2.5 years ago. And I had just closed my practice. I was missing out on a lot of time with my family. I have two boys, and I knew they would be going off to college soon. And I was working a lot of hours and just missing out. So I chose not to renew my lease. I had a whole wellness center with other practitioners, and it was a whole lot of work, we'll put it that way. And so I had some medical doctors, multiple ones that had asked me to help to consult with them and help them incorporate some holistic services into their practice. And we had bought a beach house. So just a number of things led me to that. And Kathy started telling me about the patches, and I kept saying, I'm fascinated, but I'm just too busy right now. And then fast forward a few months later, and I injured my back pretty badly. And I didn't think I had time to do the research because I'm a digger, I'm a researcher. And I kept saying, yeah, I'm kind of interested. I don't have time. But when you've got a rib protruding from your back, you have time then. You suddenly have time to do the research. And so I was able, by using the IceWave two-patch system, it brought my pain level down from about an 8 to a 2 in about 5 minutes.
Wow.
And when that injury occurred, naturally, my chiropractor was out of town. And it was actually a blessing. It turned out to be a huge blessing in disguise. Obviously, the ice wave patches didn't move my rib back into place, but it got me by until my chiropractor was back in town and he could begin the realignment process. And I just thought to myself, my goodness, if I can get someone out of pain without the concern of addiction or overdose or liver or kidney toxicity or bone deterioration, sign me up. And so that's really how it all happened.
Wow. Wow. That's interesting. A lot of times when you think about this technology, we're going to get into some of the longer term benefits, but keeping in mind that using the ice wave gives you an immediate result. You have an immediate response. And I would say 70 to 75% of our population is in pain of some
Yeah.
kind, whether it's
Yep.
acute like yours or maybe even chronic. I was fortunate enough to patch a man last week that had been in chronic pain for a year.
Mm.
Shoulders were just frozen in place, couldn't get his arms up to here without just like you know
Wow.
and literally putting ice wave on his body. Minutes later he's doing this, he's
Wow.
raising his arms and he's like, what did you just do to me? Right?
Yeah.
And that's so powerful
Mhm.
to help someone, like you said, no bone deterioration, no toxicity to the organs, no worry of potential addiction. Put it on, help that energy flow, get that movement, and the body starts to respond immediately. It's pretty darn powerful. I love
Yep.
that. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that. Thank you.
That's how it all started.
I know. That's fantastic. We all start using the patches for different reasons and different ways. And like you said, you were like, no, I'm busy. I don't have time. Blah, blah, blah. There's probably some people on here tonight or watching this recording that have said the same thing. I didn't have time. No, did not interested. Think it was hocus pocus, whatever. And then yet here you are. So let's dive into our topic because I think it's really important. Like I said, it's November the 5th, and that's technically when we start thinking about cold and flu season. And for some of you guys, that may last a couple weeks, a couple months, or maybe it goes for half the year. I don't know. But we have a lot of triggers, a lot of things that can contribute to the body's immune system. let's talk about those triggers. What are the things that impact our immune system, especially around these holidays coming up?
Okay. Well, I probably sound like a broken record, but I've said this 1,000 times. Nearly every health condition boils down to two things, and that's toxicity and deficiency. And there are many, many types of toxicities and many different types of deficiencies. And, I think the ones that most closely relate to the immune system, from a toxicity standpoint, certainly sugar tops the list. And don't even get me started on high fructose corn syrup, but genetically modified to boot. But yeah, sugar's a big one. Sugar depletes or suppresses the immune system, and 'tis the season. Not only was Halloween just Thursday, I guess, but did you know that yesterday was National Candy Day?
What?
I've never even heard of such a thing, but um, and
Never.
then the holidays are just around the corner, and it's, cookies and candy and cake and cocktails. It's just all these things, and it's not that alcohol spikes your blood sugar per se, but it's kind of a yo-yo effect, is what it does. It kind of spikes it quickly, and then it drives it way down, and then kind of that up and down, which impairs your sleep and just has it's kind of a vicious cycle of things. So it's not from a judgmental standpoint, but it's just alcohol, the sugar, all the things. A lot of pharmaceutical drugs suppress the immune system. You hear the commercials all the time. And so that's a common one. And, every pharmaceutical drug, whether it's prescription or whether it's over the counter, like Tylenol or whatever, they all have what are called drug-induced nutrient depletion. And they're very simple to look up. If you look them up, what I would say probably the most common drug-induced nutrient depletion of all is vitamin D. The vast majority of them deplete vitamin D levels. Well, vitamin D is immune function 101. So that's another thing. Processed food, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. That's a definite toxicity. Environmental toxins, that's a thing, both inside and outside your home. And I almost think sometimes inside your home is worse. For some reason, Americans, tend to think that toxic, like synthetic scents, toxic equals clean. And that's not the case. All these, oh goodness. And so I've told people before, once you clean out your cleaning supplies, switch over to natural. And even, I mean, you don't have to go with the expensive seventh generation or whatever. There's so many things you can do. You can clean your home with vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, so many options. But once you start doing that, and then you go through the cleaning section, the aisle at the grocery store, you can barely stand it, but you don't realize it until you get rid of those. But those are other examples that deplete the immune system. And I would have to say also on the area of toxicity would be stress. Stress is definitely up there on the toxicity side. And then as far as deficiencies go, you mentioned that earlier when we first got started, sunshine. That's a big one because this time of year, not only do we have less sunshine, but it's the time change and all of that. It gets darker. We have fewer hours of the day where the sun is shining, but we're just now not outside as much unless you're in Florida because it's cold. It's cold, and I don't like to be cold, but I do force myself to get out there because yes, you can supplement with vitamin D, which that is a must sometimes. However, nothing beats the sun. Nothing beats the sun shining on your skin and triggering your body's own ability to produce vitamin D. So that's a very common one. Vitamin C, zinc, again, those are some common immune function nutrients that are necessary, but are commonly depleted from pharmaceuticals. And granted, I know that some people absolutely need certain pharmaceutical drugs, and I get that, but just make sure what you're taking, that you know what is being depleted so that you can supplement and make up for that.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Let's go back before you go any further because
sure, sure.
I'm sure you talk to people, clients every single day, whether it's in person or on Zoom. I do, and I think people don't realize the one of the probably the biggest culprit that you said when you talked about toxicities being sugar. People say all the time to me, "Oh, I eat healthy. I eat healthy." And I'll say, "Okay, tell me what you just had for breakfast this morning." And they're like, "Well, I had a bagel with cream cheese and I
Right,
had
right.
a banana and I had some oranges and then I went over for I said, "Okay, what'd you have for lunch?" Well, I had a salad with, ranch dressing and, a side of, whatever fries or potatoes or, then they're just talking. Well, and then I had rice, had a rice bowl, I made that for dinner with, a little piece of chicken or something. And I'm like, okay, so
Bold pasta.
let's talk about the sugar consumption that took place throughout your day versus the protein
Yes,
consumption. I
yes.
think
Talk about a roller coaster spike.
sugars are
Yeah.
hidden. People don't realize they think in eating these healthy foods like oatmeals or bagels or, the healthier options of cardboard cereals that they're getting some kind of nutrition. So what do you find with that? Or what do you see that sugar's hidden in? Because I know it has 54 different names on packages,
Yes.
but where is sugar hidden that people may not realize? They think they're eating healthy, but it's really doing detriment to the inside of their body.
It is in everything. It's in bread. They put sugar in bread. They put sugar in salad dressings. It's in if you purchase like a jar of spaghetti sauce or salsa, it's in everything. And not only are we so accustomed to that from a taste standpoint, but sugar is highly addictive. And so that's why food companies put sugar in everything. They want you addicted to their food.
Yeah.
Or their food, I should say. So if you're not making it yourself, just be on the lookout. And I try my best. I mean, I don't make everything from scratch. We're all human. We all, we do our best. But yeah, you're exactly right. There are a lot of hidden sugars. Even in coffee in the morning. I'm not anti-coffee, believe me, but I see how people start their day, spoonfuls of sugar or the Coffee Mate creamer that's got the seed oils, the high fructose corn syrup, all of that in it. So, and that's how you start your day. And if you start your day with that spike, you tend to continue in that same direction.
Yeah,
So
you do.
yeah, lots and lots of hidden sugars. But I do love carnosine for that. And let's face it, I love me some, I love pizza, full disclosure, I do love pizza, and that's a perfect example. Really, any kind of refined carbohydrates is going to basically convert to sugar in your body. And so I do my best to keep it at a minimum. I do love the carnosine patch. Carnosine is wonderful for helping balance blood sugar levels. I know a lot of people use SP6 as well, to help curb those cravings from the get-go, and help balance blood sugar as well. But carnosine is probably my favorite. But yeah, just so much sugar and so many things that people don't think about. And also say that half of what Americans eat, apply to our skin and use to clean our homes with has been banned in other countries. I mean, that's shocking. So just trying to get back to basics as much as possible is huge. Not only from the immune system from, during cold and flu season, but also long-term deep immune function when it comes to fast-growing cells,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. It all contributes.
Yeah.
Again, toxicity and deficiency.
It does. And I think being aware of these things, knowing that this is going to directly impact my immune system, decrease my immune system's ability to function correctly, if we can
Mhm.
just start making small little tweaks,
Yeah,
going, "Oh, this has a package. It's got more ingredients on it than I know what those mean." I'm going
that's
to put
right.
that back and I'm going to go over here to where there's something where if I pick up an apple, it's an apple.
Yeah,
Non
yeah.
GMO, of course, organic.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a complete 180
Yeah.
pivot all at once, but
Yeah.
I just tell people do what you can, be aware. Somebody just posted in the chat maltodextrin, perfect example. Maltodextrin, if you see that listed on a label, that's coming from genetically modified corn. And that's one thing, GMOs in our food. A lot of people think that GMOs are the same as hybrids. Well, hybrids have been done for hundreds of years. So a hybridized crop is when they take maybe the best characteristics of this tomato and they splice it together with the best characteristics of this tomato, and they might end up with one that's, I don't know, more drought tolerant yet juicy.
Right.
That would be an example of a hybrid, but a GMO crop, well, let's just use corn as an example. In the case of GMO corn, about 95% of the corn grown in America is genetically modified. And it's they modified the seeds, and the seeds are infused with what's called the BT toxin. BT is short for some long word, it doesn't even matter. But when that corn grows, it's designed so that when the corn grows and a bug bites into it, its stomach explodes.
What?
Is it any wonder why half of America has acid reflux and IBS
You
and
got.
Crohn's disease and so yeah, do what you can, look for organic, preferably, at the very least non-GMO. And I would explain this to my clients a lot. We would talk about GMOs and then people would say, "Well, I don't eat corn." And I'm like, "Well, you just told me about the great Mexican restaurant you went to last night and you had chips and salsa and you had enchiladas. That's corn. Maltodextrin, that's corn. High fructose corn syrup. If you drink a soda or pop wherever you're from tonight, soda pop, let's say, um, that's kind of pure poison. I hate to say it, but it is. It is. So it's just a whole different product than it used to be when most of us were kids.
Yeah,
Things
that's what
are
a can
different.
of Coca-Cola is not the same.
Yeah, yeah,
I
everything's
mean, that was
different.
pure sugar, right? We got those on
Yeah.
special occasions because, we didn't get that sugar on the regular. Well, actually, we didn't get
Right.
a can. We got a bottle. Do you remember the
Yeah,
bottle?
it just wasn't accessible back then as it is now.
Yeah. So sugar, hidden sugars, be aware of the sugars because it's really going to help. Sorry, it's not going to help your immune system at all, especially during this time of year when other factors are playing in. So let's talk a little bit then about. I want to talk a little bit about sleep, Dr. Jennifer,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
we're gonna shift gears away from the nutrition side and the personal care side. Sleep, I think people are, especially here in America, just so used to go, 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 nonstop, sleep when we're dead, do it,
Yep.
don't, just do all the time. And I've been there in the past. There
Me
were
too.
years where I was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, 4 or 5 hours, no worries. I've got so much to do, la la la. And I didn't even didn't think about it, didn't care, right? And then the more and more I read, the more and more I research, like sleep is at the top. Let's talk about
Yes.
sleep.
Absolutely. Yeah, lack of sleep definitely affects the immune system in a big way. I always say sleep is sacred. It is so important. And, I'm even kind of feeling it now. I've got a little old blind 15-year-old dog that I was supposed to be fostering for a rescue organization till they could find a permanent home. And that was 3.5 years ago. But anyway, he kind of has his days and nights mixed up right now. So I've had a few nights in a row where I haven't had a lot of sleep and I'm feeling it. But sleep is so important for the immune system. And, I always tell people if you do nothing else for your health, get your 10 to 2. At the very least, at least a few nights a week, get your 10 to 2. What I mean by that is when you sleep, that's when your body does the vast majority of healing, repair, regeneration. And the vast majority of that, the most intense healing occurs between the hours of 10 p.m. and 10 and 2 a.m., 10 to 2. So in other words, if you were to sleep from 12 to 8, midnight to 8 a.m., that's not nearly as effective or beneficial as if you slept from 10 to 6. Even though it's the same number of hours, 12 to 8 versus 10 to 6, you've missed out on 50%. If you don't go to bed till midnight, you've missed out on 50% of that intense healing, cleansing, detoxification process. When you sleep, that's when, your hormones reset, your tissues rebuild. Your liver dumps toxins, all kinds of really neat things occur in the body. And if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. So sleep is sacred. So try to get your 10 to 2 at least a couple nights a week. You will notice a difference if you can do that. And I know a lot of people just can't sleep these days because their circadian rhythm is so disturbed. Because what do a lot of people do, especially tonight, the election night? What are people doing? They've got their cell phones right up to their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling the pineal gland, hey, it's still daytime. I'm blasting you with light. It's daytime. You don't have to go to sleep. You don't have to produce melatonin, the sleep hormone. It's daytime. And so as a result, or on the TV or on a laptop, whatever. So then when you go to lay down, when you go to bed, you think you're tired, your head hits the pillow and boing, you're wide awake. And that's because of all the blue light from our screens, from our smart TVs, from our cell phones, from our laptops, all of this. And it really does a number on you. So yes, sleep is so important for the healing process. And before I started patching, I thought I was a great sleeper. I mean I am, but once I started using X39, I thought, oh my gosh, like I kind of became one with the mattress. Like I really slept deep once I started patching. And full disclosure, I've only used Silent Nights probably twice because I just don't need it. But my husband and my oldest son swear by it. They may forget to use their X39 or whatever else, but they don't forget their Silent Nights. And the Silent Nights patch can help do that. It can help rebalance the circadian rhythm, and it can help tell your pineal gland, hey, it's time to produce melatonin, time to produce that sleep hormone.
I'm the same as you, Dr. Jennifer. Sleep has always been like, even when I was the same thing, getting little bits, right, years ago, it was, I'm out, right? I would be a really good sleeper, never had any problem falling asleep. I could, get woke up and go right back to sleep. Of course, as I've gotten older and wiser, I make sure I get that 7 hours every single night. Shoot for the 8, but my body's pretty happy with 7. I'm
Yeah.
really good with 7. But same thing with you, easy to do. That's not the case with most people. Most people
Mhm.
don't have that situation, right? So let's talk a little bit. What are some things they can do? Obviously, the phone, the computer, the TV, turn that off, at least an hour or so before. What are some things, what do you recommend around like food or temperature, clothing, windows, that kind of thing with sleep? What can
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of blackout curtains. A dark, dark, quiet room, a little on the cooler side. That's good. Another thing is just getting some outdoor time, getting out in nature, grounding, removing your shoes and socks, and standing on the earth, standing on grass or dirt. You can even ground on concrete, but just, preferably on grass that hasn't been sprayed with Roundup. Reconnect with the Earth's magnetic field, and that helps with detoxing all the harmful EMFs that we're being hit up with. You reconnect with the Earth's magnetic field. Also, watching the sun rise in the morning and watching it set in the evening. If you do that 4, 5, 6, 7 nights in a row, that can reset your circadian rhythm as well.
Yeah.
And then other things people often don't think about. I know, well, sometimes my kids, I have teenagers, they're college students, and they might complain about not being able to sleep. And I'm like, really? Is that a Red Bull I see over there in your trash can? So, loaded with caffeine. So, keeping your caffeine consumption, whether it's coffee or any of those other poisonous drinks that my kids have been caught drinking, um, excuse me, keeping that to a minimum, I would say, no caffeine past 2 p.m., really, because it really can upset or disturb your circadian rhythm.
Yeah, I love that what you said about that morning sunlight. There's so much research into the morning time and the sun hitting your eyes, not with sunglasses on, but actually the sun coming in through your, you're good, go ahead. It happens all the time. But that sun coming into your eyes in the morning is so powerful to help your body to really go, okay, I'm awake, that circadian rhythm. And I love that we put our X39 on in the morning. X39 is a daytime only patch. It's designed to elevate, right? Activate GHK, Cu, copper peptide. That peptide is so powerful in and of itself, all the things that it does. But one thing that elevating that does is it does help increase our GABA. There is a benefit with X39 of elevating GABA. And GABA is very important when you look at sleep. Okay, so even though it's a daytime patch, you patch during the day, it elevates GHK, it gets all the things going during the day, energy, brain, mental focus, clarity, and stuff. We still see the benefits of a deeper REM sleep at night. And like for me, great sleeper, no issues, never ever. But I felt the same way. When I started patching, it was like, I'd wake up in the morning and I'm like, did I sleep? Am I alive? What has happened? It's like
Right.
you're out and then you're up. And
Yeah.
not that I ever didn't have I never had an issue sleeping. I always felt I was always a dreamer, but now I was sharing with somebody earlier, my dreams are like they're like stories. They're
Yeah.
so detailed and vivid and all the time. It's like it's just bizarre. 3.5 years later, and I'm still like, I wake up in the morning and I could literally write books on the things
Yeah.
that took place, even though I'm so deep in a sleep. When I wake up in the morning, it's like, wow, these dreams took place. So much amazing REM sleep is taking place because of the X39. And I know you mentioned silent nights, and I have never used silent nights. Nobody in my family has. We're all really good sleepers. Brent used to get me all night to go pee, but X39 and Eon took care of that. So thank God he doesn't do that anymore. But we're all really good sleepers. But silent nights is a game changer for people.
Yeah.
That was one of the first patches that David invented, 20 years ago was silent nights because that melatonin it's so important not only for sleep and circadian rhythm, but when you look at your immune system.
Yeah.
It's
Melatonin is an important antioxidant. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's huge.
Yeah.
I also love aloe vera for sleep. Talk about dreaming when I sleep with the aloe vera patch right here over my third eye. Love that. Again, like you said, I could write a book on my dreams.
Yeah, aloe vera. Oh my gosh. Okay, so aloe vera is not a sleep patch, but aloe vera is a patch that will elevate melatonin a little bit. And of course, that impacts your pineal gland. The peptide, the epithalamic peptide is what aloe vera activates. And so that peptide is responsible for reducing oxidative stress, inflammatory stress in the body, helping the telomeres. I mean, just fantastic on the inside. Then we look at the outside when we look at scars and lines and wrinkles and spots and sagginess and crepiness. The collagen production is increased with aloe vera. So it does so much for us on the inside and on the outside. But if you heard Dr. Harmon's talk a few weeks ago, he talked a lot about aloe vera and how powerful that is and how we need that for our immune system. So super important patch. Nighttime only though. Nighttime only patch.
Love aloe vera.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Stress. I think stress is huge for suppressing the immune system, and especially this time of year. Excuse me. It just kind of goes along with the hustle and bustle, the shopping, the decorating, the entertaining, the financial outpouring, traffic, the 24-hour news cycle, the
Family.
election, family. And oh no, yeah, that's not stressful at all. Yeah, everything. And that's a big thing, stress in the immune system. Your autonomic nervous system is directly affected by stress. And so your autonomic nervous system most of you are familiar with hearing fight, flight, or freeze, which is also called parasympathetic. I'm sorry, sympathetic. And then parasympathetic is known as rest, digest, and repair. And so that's a big one. If you can, a lot of people get stuck in sympathetic mode, that fight, flight, or freeze. And it has a cascade of effects in the body as far as your immune function and all kinds of things. I always say that your autonomic nervous system, God gave it to us to save our life. If you think back thousands of years ago, saber-tooth tigers chasing after you, you need to kick into sympathetic mode to get out of there. It gives you superpowers. It's powered by your adrenal glands, your cortisol. And most of you have probably heard stories where maybe a car falls on a child and mama kicks into sympathetic mode and lifts that car up, that 3,000-pound car, whatever, and saves her baby. That is because of the autonomic nervous system. So, but the problem is we get stuck in it because we no longer have saber-tooth tigers chasing after us, but we have mean bosses. We have not enough outdoor time. A lot of us work inside in cubicles. There's a lot of traffic. I just mentioned the 24-hour news cycle, the election, all those things, and we tend to get stuck in that sympathetic mode. And when you do that, you have different physiological changes that occur in the body. Sometimes maybe your pupils might dilate so you can see to get out of danger, you can see in all directions. Your heart rate, blood pressure increases and sends blood to the extremities so you can run like the wind. That's what all that's designed for. Again, it's fueled by cortisol. But when the body gives extra energy to some certain parts of the body, it has to take from other parts of the body. And so typically the three main areas that your autonomic nervous system takes from in order to give you these superpowers is digestion for one. Because who needs to be sitting down at a five-course meal when a saber-tooth tiger's chasing after you? Another thing is fertility. I've worked with so many people over the years that came to me for fertility. They had spent thousands, tens of thousands at fertility clinics, and not a single one of them asked what their stress level was like. Well, again, when a saber-tooth tiger's chasing after you, it's not time to be making babies.
Mm-mm.
So that fertility tends to shut down. A third area that tends to shut down when you're in sympathetic mode is the immune system. Because if you've got a little cold, if you've got the sniffles, who cares? A saber-tooth tiger's chasing after you. So those
Run.
three, yes, run. So those three areas, digestion, fertility, and uh, gosh, I just said it,
Deficiencies.
immune function, those all tend to be suppressed when you're in that full-on sympathetic mode. And a lot of us are in it all the time. We can't shift over into parasympathetic so that we can rest, digest, and repair.
Mhm.
And so I love the Eon patch for that very reason. Love Eon. That helps balance the autonomic nervous system, among other things. And that is a patch that can be worn day or night, which I love, to not only reduce inflammation, but help reduce stress. And so I always tell people if you're the type of person who goes to bed tired, and as soon as your head hits the pillow, the monkey mind kicks in and you start trying to solve all the world's problems, you might want to wear Eon at night.
Yeah, Eon below the belly button, that triple warmer spot, in
Great spot.
acupuncture, that spot has been fantastic for people to help with that monkey mind. It's not a sleep patch. It's nothing to do with melatonin or sleeping or anything like that. But like you said, it just helps bring the nervous system into balance. And, when we look at the body healing, the body is, we're wearing our X39. So we're activating the body's own ability to start healing itself, right? That's what the elevation of GHK does, in turn, activating our own stem cells, set in motion the body's ability to heal itself. When you've got a body that's stuck in that fight or flight mode, it's stressed physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that's not a conducive environment for healing.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And so you're working really against each other. And
Yeah.
so, that's what we call the X39 and Eon, the dynamic duo. You bring down that inflammation, you bring that nervous system into balance. At the same time, you're elevating GHK, you're activating your stem cells. In my opinion, you set that body up for a more rapid, dramatic healing experience
Hmm.
because you're giving it that extra support that it needs. Because I guarantee you, the people we have on here tonight and the ones that are watching the replay, raise a hands. How many of you have stress in your life? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual stress. Some way, shape, or form. We're all alive, so we're experiencing some type of stress right now. And it doesn't mean that we're always stuck in fight or flight. But I find, and I'm sure you do too, Jennifer, that the majority of people are stuck in
A
fight or
lot. Yes, absolutely.
are. Yeah, we
Yep.
are. And so Eon's going to help that process. It's going to really help you to take that edge off. People all the time, what do you have for anxiety? Well, Eon, it's nervous system, right? What do you have to help me with dealing with my relatives here, or my job here, my boss, you mentioned the boss, that kind of stuff. It's Eon to bring that nervous system into balance. And can we talk just for a second, because you mentioned your kids, and of course the first two people I patched were my kids. We have so many children today, and ours are older, but we have so many children today that are dealing with stressors that
Mm.
we never had, right? I love when I talk to an audience and, I'm the youngest one there. We all remember the days when there were no cell phones. There was
Mhm.
no social media. There was no comparison, internet. It was like, what color shoes did Jenny get today? That was the big, oh, did you get your jeans from the Buckle or Gap? Or did you get those from, Walmart? That was like,
Well,
minor.
that,
So let's talk a little bit about that.
yeah, I do think kids are faced with things today that we could have never dreamed of. I think one of the biggest, well, gosh, two of the biggest are the food additives, everything that's in the food, because we mention, sometimes people, family members, let's just say, will say to me, oh, you ate that when you were a kid, or we had that when we were kids, and we're fine. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a whole different product nowadays, totally different. So the food is toxic now that kids have to deal with. And the electronics. I see babies, they can barely even hold up a phone or an iPad or whatever, and they've got it in their faces for hours. So those are huge, causing cellular damage, causing, sleep disturbances, causing stress on them.
Yeah. And, people ask all the time, is this safe to use on your children? And just as you mentioned with the foods with food additives, is it safe to feed your children Honey Nut Cheerios? Is it safe to give them Skittles? Is it safe to take them through McDonald's drive-through?
Right.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope, 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 nope. It's
Yeah.
definitely not. And so, is the patch safe? Are all of the patches safe?
LifeWave stance is that they haven't been clinically tested on children under the age of 18. If
Mhm.
I had these patches available to me when my kids were younger, absolutely.
Yeah, me too. Wish I
Absolutely.
would have known about these when my daughter was little and my son,
Yes.
when my daughter was 4, my son was 2, when we were going through issues with them. I wish I would have known about the stuff that I know now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nothing going into the body with the patch, right?
Non-transdermal, purely reflective, chiral. So just reflecting back wavelengths of light that we all naturally emit as mammals. That's
Mhm.
all that's happening. It's a beautiful thing and a very safe thing.
Yeah. So nothing entering the body, nothing harmful. I talked to mom the other day, and her daughter has been on Synthroid since age
Oh,
4.
are you kidding? I've never heard of that.
No, me either. She's
Wow.
10 now. And of course, six
Oh,
years, the compound effect of this medicine, she's in a spiral. And,
wow.
she's searching for anything and everything. And
Mm,
of course, we discussed, using the X39 and the Eon. As she was asking, I've read on this, I've done some research, I've talked to my friend, her friend had brought her to the Zoom, and she said, is this safe? Is this, is it going to harm my child? Because this medicine is harming her.
hmm.
She's 10, and we are dealing with you know, potentially suicidal child here from the depression and the anxiety in her brain and what's happening. And I said, there's nothing harmful, right? You have to make your
Yeah.
own choice. She said, I need something now to help her so we can get her off of these medicines. And I said, well, that's something you're going to do with your doctor. I don't do that part. I don't monitor medications. But, that's a very real situation for parents today dealing with children that are depressed, that have anxiety, and Eon is an option if you choose as a parent to help them with that nervous system regulation.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
really rewarding when these parents see the change instantaneous in their kids.
Yeah.
We call it the happy patch.
That's right. That's right. I know when we were kids, we never heard of anyone having depression, much less a child. I mean, that was unheard of. So yeah, I do feel that the medications, um, EMFs or screen time, lack of outdoor time, and the food, kids do have a lot to deal with nowadays that we didn't.
Yeah,
So
they really do. And I think people forget that. They just
Yeah.
assume, well, I went through McDonald's when I was a kid. Well, yeah, we did. Well, it didn't have, all the stuff that it does now. They didn't cook the food and the things
Yeah.
they do now. I mean, was it the
Right.
healthiest option? No. I'm not saying it was, but it wasn't what it is today.
Right.
So I think people have to keep that in mind. Our personal care products aren't what they were today. They just
Mhm.
are not, right? So anything else you want to talk about before we go to a little Q&A? Anything else to do with the immune system? With your this season, your cold and flu. Anything else you want to highlight with our patches before we do that Q&A?
Gosh, I just think sugar, stress, and lack of sleep, those are probably the three biggies. And gosh, I am so grateful for these patches. There's so much that you can do with them. And I think there's nobody on earth that can't benefit from them. And like you said, they're perfectly safe, they're non-transdermal, they're merely reflective. So we're just triggering the body's ability to heal itself the way it was designed, using our own light.
I love that. I love that. So, Dr. Jennifer, somebody wants to know, what supplements do you recommend daily for optimal health? Obviously, we have our patches, but we cannot wait for David to come out with the powders for us.
Yeah, yes, I'm really excited about that. Daily supplementation, that's going to vary from person to person. So I'm sometimes hesitant to mention that, but for example, let's say a person has had their gallbladder removed. Well, your gallbladder produces bile, which helps you to assimilate fats. And so typically, people who've had their gallbladders removed, they're going to be deficient in vitamins A, D, E, K, and then also omega 3s and CoQ10 because they're all fat soluble. So, those are some supplements that if you've had your gallbladder removed, you may want to consider. So, again, A, D, E, K,
Let's say that
CoQ.
one more time because this
Sorry,
is
I'm
probably
sorry.
a brand new like news flash. If you've had your gallbladder out, which a ton of people have,
A lot. Yes.
they're deficient in what? Let's say that again.
Okay. Vitamin A, D,
Mm-hmm.
E, K, and then CoQ10 for the heart
Mm-hmm.
and omega 3. Those are all fat soluble nutrients.
Wow.
So, and I mean, just if you think about them one by one, vitamin A, if you're vitamin A deficient, what happens? Eyesight. Your
Mm-hmm.
eyesight goes, especially, night blindness. Vitamin D. Well, vitamin D deficiency, that's depression 101. It's poor immune function. It's, brittle teeth and bones. So much from vitamin D. Like I said, CoQ10 for the heart
Mm-hmm.
and omega 3s for the brain, for the immune system, for eyesight, for the skin, so much. So, those are some things to consider. And it's just an example of why everybody's so different. It depends. If you've had your gallbladder removed, that's a whole different ballgame than someone who hasn't. Also, look at what kind of medications you might be on. Look at the drug-induced nutrient depletion associated with that medication. Even if it's over the counter. Tylenol, for example, I have heard, very prominent medical doctors before say that if Tylenol had to go through the same FDA process today that it, back in the day that it does today, it would have never made it to market. And the biggest thing that Tylenol depletes is your glutathione levels. That's a big one. So you're probably glutathione deficient. Fortunately, we have a patch for that.
Let's
Um,
talk a little bit about glutathione. We haven't even got to that one
oh
yet,
my gosh, I know. I've
but
forgotten to mention that. That's huge.
yeah, let's talk.
Glutathione is great for immune function. It's your body's master antioxidant, your master detoxer. The majority of it is produced in the liver. And so things like Tylenol and alcohol can suppress your liver's ability to produce proper levels of glutathione. So yeah, that's very important. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, so I want to talk just a little bit about with glutathione. So most people are familiar with glutathione. It's become a buzzword, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
We know glutathione as a supplement, whether it's oral or sublingual. is going to be about 20 to 23% an increase in glutathione in your body, right? You're ingesting something, even if you're doing an IV, like an IV push, a lot of times you'll do like a Myers cocktail and push a glutathione at the end. Some people may actually do suppositories. I know Laura loved that every night. As she was going through cancer treatment, she was doing IV pushes 2 times a week, and she was getting suppositories nightly by herself. But anyway, yuck, right? Who wants to do
Right. No, thank you.
not interested, but it was so important during her holistic cancer treatment to
Hmm.
help the body to heal naturally. And the problem is why she was doing so much is because glutathione is gone. It has a 7-minute half-life. So in a couple hours, it's out of your body. And a glutathione goes in kind of like the Pac-Man to chomp up all those free radicals, right? We're going chomp, chomp, chomp and getting all those out of the body. But it's only going to do that for a short period of time. So our glutathione patch is very different. You said it activates that peptide in the liver. It's a tripeptide. And so glutathione, your own glutathione, not an exogenous source put in
Right.
through spray or sublingual or IV even, your own glutathione is going to be elevated. And it's going to be elevated over 300% looking at our clinical studies. Sometimes even up to 600% elevation. Now, I'll tell you, there is a way to get your glutathione level up your own, up about 700%-ish. That's coffee enemas. No, thank you.
Yeah,
Not
same here.
interested
No,
in those.
thank you.
Not interested in those myself personally. I do like to drink coffee from time to time, but I keep it up here, not down there. But I know people that do, and it's
Yeah.
very beneficial.
It's effective. Yeah, yeah. And in fact, when I saw that LifeWave made a glutathione patch to elevate your own endogenous levels of glutathione,
Yeah.
a huge selling point. I could not believe it. I've never heard of such a thing. I used to carry a glutathione supplement in my office, and it was liposomal and nanoemulsify. You squirt it in your mouth.
Yep.
It was very expensive. It had to be refrigerated. And because it was liposomal, it tasted horrible. Let's just say chemical snowstorm is what it tasted like. Everybody hated it. So this is a fraction of the price. And, it doesn't matter if it's glutathione, if it's vitamin D, if it's carnosine, if, whatever, you're always going to be better off by elevating your body's own endogenous levels of whatever that fill in the blank nutrient is versus getting an exogenous supplement.
I totally agree with that. And our glutathione levels being elevated, it's actually going to sustain for about a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
So you could patch today and have your glutathione level elevated for 24 hours, which means those Pac-Man are going around looking for those free radicals in your body, the glutathione. They're looking for those free radicals in your body for a 24-hour period. So if you want to patch daily, you can, or you can definitely do every other day or every third day. Some people even start with every week. I'll be honest with you, glutathione is the master detoxer, okay? So better out than in. But
That's
just
right.
know that glutathione starts slow with it because it may cause you to go to the bathroom a little bit more. But again, better out than in. Toxins
That's
out,
right.
lymphatic system cleaned out. We're getting those things out of the body, and that's going to keep the body healthier. So that's really, really important with glutathione too. Jennifer, I do have a question someone asked privately
All right.
because you talked about, of course, with your practice, focusing in on autoimmune. What other supplements or vitamins? They said they feel selenium, vitamin D. Of course, they use X39 Eon and glutathione. Would you recommend just a general blanket of any specific vitamin or nutrient if you do have any type of autoimmune?
Yeah, if it comes to autoimmune thyroid, for example, I'm not going to name disease names.
Yeah.
But if it's trying to be compliant here, if it's underactive thyroid, your body, your thyroid is probably craving some iodine, nascent iodine, and selenium. So if you're not getting maybe some wild caught salmon, for example, I would maybe consider an iodine supplement. Nascent iodine is what I'm the biggest fan of, the form of. And selenium is great. Brazil nuts, I always look to food first. So Brazil nuts are a nice source of selenium. And just kind of I think you mentioned a general overall supplement that's kind of like almost a one size fits all. I'm a big fan of greens drinks. Like they're come from freeze dried broccoli, spinach, kale, and then sometimes some berries and wheatgrass and all kinds of different things that you don't necessarily get in your daily diet. So when you freeze dry something as opposed to canning or other types of food preservation, it maintains about 90 to 97% of the nutrient value. And so they freeze dry these typically organic fruits and vegetables and then pound them into a powder. And then you can just mix it in a glass of water or coconut water or whatever and drink it. So to me, that is a good kind of an insurance policy, just highly absorbable nutrition that everybody needs. And most greens are going to contain ingredients that you're not going to get even if you do have a healthy diet. For example, chlorella and spirulina. Those are two common examples of greens powder, greens drink ingredients. Well, chlorella and spirulina, they're both microalgae, and they help bind to heavy metals and flush them out of the system, among other things. So I'm a big fan of greens drinks. To me, it's the best fast food you can possibly get in your body, and it's also kind of my little. I mentioned that I love pizza. And it's my secret weapon. When I go out for pizza, I drink a nice glass of greens before I go, and I find that I don't eat as much pizza.
Wow.
I think it's just kind of giving my body what it needs. I'm not craving anything. I get full more quickly, and I just don't feel the urge to eat the entire pizza. I might only eat three quarters.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
And
But
then
yeah,
of course
love greens.
you've got your glutathione there to help remove
That's
any
right. That's
toxins. So
right.
that
Yeah.
that
And
is
then,
smart.
I guess the other thing is, as far as supplements go, I'm a fan of getting them not only from your food, if you can, but also if you do supplement whole food supplements. So, for example, if you're going to Walmart or Walgreens or whatever for vitamin C, chances are it's going to say ascorbic acid on the bottle is the form of vitamin C. Well, chances are that ascorbic acid is coming from genetically modified corn. You can't even make this up. It's crazy. So you're actually doing yourself more harm than good if you're buying a cheap vitamin C made with ascorbic acid.
Mhm.
But if you're getting vitamin C that's made with camu camu from the Amazon or goji berry or amla, Indian wolfberry, or those are some other names, or citrus bioflavonoids or rose hips. Those are some examples of whole food based supplements. And so look at the source. Quality is key. Look at diet first. Always look at your food. For example, if vitamin K, I mentioned vitamin K deficiency is common among someone who's had their gallbladder removed.
Mhm.
Well, it's so simple to go online and look up what foods contain vitamin K. Spinach is one. So I'm a fan of getting it from food first and then whole food supplements second, and then looking at what your body needs, whether it's a thyroid condition, whether you've had your gallbladder removed, so on and so forth. And then also looking at any pharmaceuticals that you might be on that might be depleting nutrients. I think those are all important issues to keep in mind to look at.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Jennifer, for being here this evening. The information that you shared is completely invaluable for people. I know that they are going to love this. I'm, of course, getting tons of messages in the chat, but this is just absolutely incredible information just about overall wellness. We're not just a patch company, right? We are a life technology company, keyword life, like a whole life, looking at the whole picture and being able to say, gosh, I want to make healthy lifestyle choices, and you gave us so many tips, so many incredible tips about the patches, of course. Thank you so much. But so many incredible tips just in general. You're a wealth of knowledge. So thank you so much for being here this evening. I appreciate you taking the time, especially today. I know it's a busy day for a lot of people. So thank you for being here. And if you have any last words you would like to share with everyone before we go.
Just watch out for the toxicity and deficiency and get your 10 to 2.
Yeah, get the 10 to 2. New information probably to a lot of you guys. 10 to 2. 10 to 2 is vitally important for your overall well being and especially that immune system. So, thank you, Dr. Jennifer, for being here. And I look forward to seeing you very soon at an event.
Thank you, Dr. Stacy. Y'all have a nice evening.
You too.